Witness Coops back.
And now the Republican candidates for Congress from the 3rd District. Again, the district covers the southwest side of Chicago, Midway Airport, and several southwestern suburbs. The seat is currently held by Dan Lipinski, who is seeking re-election in the Democratic primary. And we're now joined by Arthur Jones, he's an insurance broker from Chicago, and Michael Hawkins, he is a real estate agent from Bridgeview. Gentlemen, welcome to Chicago tonight. Mr. Hawkins, let me start with you, alphabetical order. Why doesn't the incumbent deserve another term?
Well, first of all, you could look at his record. Okay, what is he? How many bills has he enacted? And that would be 0. So it wouldn't be too hard to do better than he's,
He would point to a bill, for example, where he called on the Department of Defense, all their facilities, to replace their lighting with more environmentally friendly light bulbs. I mean, that was one thing that he did. Well,
yes, but that wasn't something that he did. He was, told about that. But just to give you an idea,
credit for it on his website.
Yeah, right. Well, there's another idea that's going around too. Is that's with the reflector bulbs using. Like, for instance, street lights where you're using reflector bulbs instead of electric bulbs.
So you're saying he may have done a couple things, or been connected with a couple things, but nothing of substance. Right. Mr. Jones, why doesn't the incumbent deserve another term?
Well, Mr. Lipinski is much too liberal for this district. He's not like his father. If you do a little research, you'll see that he has a rating from the Americans for Democratic Action of 85% liberal. 2 years ago, it was 70% liberal, so he's gotten worse over the next 2 years.
And Mr. Hawkins, how would you be different from the incumbent?
Well, I'd like to strengthen our precincts, okay, and get them more involved. Have a precinct organization for each of the precincts, because we have 653, I believe. That's a lot of precincts. So, and there is really no organization to have people's ideas shared with our representative. So.
And Mr. Jones, how would you be different from the incumbent?
Well, my position is this. I've got over 20 years in the health insurance business. I'm a health insurance broker. I've literally serviced thousands of people throughout the 3rd Congressional District, and I know more about health insurance than all of these other candidates combined. And I have a health insurance plan. If you go to my website, artjonesinfo.com, you can see that I have worked out a great plan that can solve the health insurance crisis for this country, save about $100 billion, and reduce the cost of health insurance for the average person. This is something that none of these politicians have dealt with, because they don't know the business like I do.
Mr. Hawkins, how do you differ from Arthur Jones?
Well, he was just mentioning with health care. I do have a program to replace, to add on to what we have right now. And I would set up more or less like a insurance bank where we'd have fully funded health savings accounts, which would then create a investment opportunity so that we could use that investment and then with that interest pay for health insurance.
May I answer that?
Sure.
His health insurance plan is absolute nonsense. He advocates using the Federal Reserve banking system as a means of paying our health insurance. That's not the function of the Federal Reserve. And I'm surprised that someone that's in the real estate business doesn't understand how the Federal Reserve works.
Mr. Jones, let me ask you something. The Sun-Times says you have, in its editorials endorsing somebody else, says you've been linked to a white supremacist organization. The Tribune says you're known for neo-Nazi activities. The Southwest News Herald says you've called for the preservation of white neighborhoods and white civilization in general. Is that true?
Sure, why not? What's wrong with preserving white culture? It's under assault all over this country. Every time you turn around, there's some minority that's squawking about some alleged wrong that they experienced. And I just believe that it's time that the white people have a defender in the government instead of all these wimps that supposedly represent them.
So you are linked to white supremacist organizations?
I'm not linked with anything anymore.
Or neo-Nazi activities?
I'm not linked with anything anymore. I don't even...
Were you?
In the past, 1979, yes. It's absolutely ridiculous that you bring something like this up, because here we got a congressman named Bobby Rush, who was a member of the cop-killing Black Panther Party. Nobody says boo about that. You have Luis Gutierrez, who belongs to the Puerto Rican Liberation Front, an organization that tried to assassinate the President of the United States, Harry Truman. Nobody says anything about that. But something that I did 28 years ago, you keep throwing up in my face all the time. I don't think it's fair.
Mr. Hawkins, is that a fair issue to bring up? Is this something you've been bringing up?
It's something that I've tried to ignore. I even asked the priest about it because I wanted to know how to deal with somebody that's like that.
What did your priest tell you?
He said that there's only two things you do with evil. One is you ignore it until you can't anymore, and then you destroy it. He said just stay away from them.
Excuse me. This man has been slamming me all over this district. He said, I am pure evil. He said he doesn't want to be near me, and so on and so forth. This is the first time the man had to come out in public. He has not been anywhere. He hasn't been to any endorsement sessions. He hasn't been to any candidate forums, anything. He's plain out refused to participate in this campaign. He thinks the Republican Party is just going to simply let him coast right through.
Okay, excuse me, we're almost out of time. I'll give you 10 seconds to say your last pitch as to why you should get people's votes.
Well, I think that with the privatization of Midway, okay, would be a tool that we could use for the 3rd District to, put money into the community.
So you're pro-privatization?
Yes.
And your last 10 seconds, Mr.
Okay,
Jones.
I'm totally opposed to privatization. I don't think we should be selling out the assets of this city to foreign interests. And I'm totally opposed to all these treasonous trade treaties that are putting millions of Americans out of work. And if I get elected to Congress, I will fight for the working people of this city and this country.
And that's where we'll have to leave it. Arthur Jones, Michael Hawkins, thank you both for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we should remind our viewers that February 5th is also the day to vote for judicial candidates. For a list of ratings and endorsements, go to our website for a list you can print and take with you to the voting booth. And up next, comedian Bill Lepp is our critic for a day, so stay with us.